Captain Slog, Stardate 17. I've got it right this time. It's 17. I'm fairly certain. I might not be. Stardate, whatever. These are the continued voyages of Ensigns Mark and Eddie as we trek our way through all of Star Trek Next Generation, coming to you live from 10 forward. Anyway, Mark, how you been?
Yeah, fine. How you doing?
Okay. My dog took me on a 20-second emotional roller coaster the other day. I'm walking down the street and the dog starts barking at this guy walking past. I'm like, oh no, the dog's gone mental. I feel embarrassed. Oh dear. So I apologise to the guy. Wow, I'm sorry. And I feel embarrassed about my dog, and I'm in a negative, one emotional state. And then I saw what the bloke was holding in his hand, leaflets, campaigning. I apologise to a Tory, Mark. I've never been more. My dog was completely in the right. I should completely trust their judgment. Had I spotted them, I would have gone, oh, I'm sorry. She's just, she reacts badly to hypocrisy, and people think it's okay to cheat on your wife while she's getting cancer treatment. Oh, you don't think that's okay? Why you still remember when that's your leader? You fucking pricks. If Boris Johnson isn't a deal breaker for you, you're a cunt.
Nice.
That's all I've got to say about that.
What's your dog's name?
My dog's full name is Jessica Beatrice Fletcher Lampert Edwards, because she's named after, of course, Jessica Fletcher from Murder, She Wrote.
Good. It's good. Well done. She done well there.
Yeah. She's detected the crime of being a Tory, which you might be thinking if you're listening at home, that's not a crime, but it will be. It will be when I'm in charge.
We're gonna have to delete a lot of these episodes when the purge comes.
No, I don't think we will. I think we'll be. It depends whether we're going to be purgers or purgees.
I reckon I'm going to be a purgee.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go quiet. Well, maybe I will. Maybe. Because you don't really look. All I'm saying is, you don't know how you're going to act in a genocide against yourself until it happens, right?
No, that's fair. Yeah. It's difficult to predict.
I'd like to hope that I'd asked for a cigarette, but you don't get that option a lot of the time.
No. If you can take two of them with you, then it's a wash. That's what I think.
Yeah, genocide is just, there's so much admin that
you'll be fine. You're in Scotland. You guys will just fucking reinforce Adrian's Wall and be. It's still going to go to shit in England and Wales.
Wasn't built to keep the Romans out.
England.
Yeah, I mean, you could just move here and help us leave.
That's very much my current plan. If Scotland gets independence, I'm
No.
off.
No. You don't get to cruise on that wave of fucking other people's work. No. You want to move to Scotland when it's independent, you move now. And you vote.
No, I'll get an Irish passport. I'll be straight over.
Oh, look at Johnny Plan B over here. I don't have an Irish, but I only have an Irish fiance, and apparently getting an Irish spousal visa for a Brit is just a nightmare. Makes me wonder really what the point in this whole relationship is.
See, this is the thing though. I don't think Scotland should go for independence. I've said this before. Scotland shouldn't go for independence. Scotland should join Ireland and just create a Celtic superstate that is equal in size and military standing to England, and then invade.
What and become a 65 county socialist republic?
Yeah.
What if Scotland joined Ireland, but the 6 captive counties remained captive?
But then you get to have fun with enclaves, which is my favourite thing in maps. Like how in Belgium, there's loads of parts of Belgium. Basically, so do you know the whole thing with Belgium? That basically there was a bunch of lords who kept losing parcels of land to each other in card games. And
No.
That's why like you could be in Belgium, you could like walk like you could like in Belgium and Holland and the border in Luxembourg. Like, that's all. There's bits of that where you could like walk from Belgium into Luxembourg, into Holland, back into Belgium. And there's like pubs where like they have to stop serving alcohol on one half of the pub at like 11 o'clock, and they can go till midnight on the other side. It's an absolute nightmare around there, but it's one of my favourite parts of Europe. And it's also it's like, well, we don't have to fix all of this because we're all in the EU, so fuck it. It's fun.
One of my favourite sort of land dispute issues is I can't remember the details. I think it's in Sudan. I think it's between Sudan and South Sudan. There's a vast swath of desert that is essentially somewhat unclaimed, but both countries constantly claim that the other country has it. They're like, no, that's theirs. That we're not in any other country. Like, it's like the Brits don't know about it. Do you know what I mean? Or they'd be right in there.
It's like there's two possible borders, and one of them puts the like really valuable like oil reserves on one side, and one of them puts them on the other side. But whichever side has it also doesn't have this bit of desert that nobody cares about. So they both claim, oh, we've got that, we don't have that, so nobody's got that. So if you want to go, why has nobody? I mean, I know why. Sudan's awful. I was going to say, why has nobody held a festival there? Where it's like, oh, there's no laws. You know, like there aren't at normal festivals for white people. Oh, should we talk about Star Trek then?
Yeah,
This was good.
I glanced down at my notes there and I thought, I can't remember what the fuck this episode was about, but I remember now. They find life.
Yeah, it's the plot of this episode is basically it's Life Gym, but not as we know it.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed this.
I enjoyed
proper
this
Star Trek episode.
That's what I said to Laura. I was like, this is proper Trek.
Yeah.
Like, the action stuff is fun, but I want everyone in a lab looking at a thing, figuring out what's happening, and then going, take a step back, observe what's different. Okay, right, we're on board. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Again, it's one of these episodes that I'm sure there will be a better version of in like season 4. But as this one goes, I had a good time with it. So the plot of the episode is we start with an establishing shot of the Enterprise flying over a planet. That's fun. That's new, and it's a terraformed planet, or it is a planet in the process of being terraformed, which means that they're using science to turn a dead planet into a living planet. They go down to see the terraformers are a bit kind of cagey to see them. They call one of the terraformers and he's like, well, you know, maybe you shouldn't come down. There's a fun theme park over there. Go and look at that instead. But you know, don't come here anyway. Bye, see ya. So Troy turns to Picard and says, that guy's hiding something. And
fucking astute on the money.
as always, worth every penny. Deanna Troy. They go down to the planet. The terraformers give them an explanation of what's happening. Then a laser kills one of the terraformers, almost kills Data. They find a new form of inorganic life. They bring it back to the Enterprise, and then the rest of it is essentially just a philosophical, existential debate about whether something that is inorganic can or cannot be life.
Yeah, a debate that is had quite a lengthy discussion, which is frequently had while Data is right there in the room being inorganic.
My first thought when I was watching this is Troy, because Troy's kind of the first character that we really see in the episode. And I turned to Laura and said, the writing for Troy is so terrible. And it's so obvious what she's actually doing that it made me wonder, and I'm not particularly... I'm neuro... What's the opposite of neurodivergent? Undivergent?
Yeah,
I guess.
Neurotypical? That's it. Yeah.
Neurotypical, right? I'm fairly neurotypical. I've got some quirks and things, but I'm fairly on the ball. I was... So obviously Star Trek has had and always has a big kind of autistic following. Spock was obviously a bit of an autistic icon. In the first episode of this podcast, I think we posited that maybe Troy is another type of autistic icon. I'm wondering, and I'm not saying this as a joke, I genuinely wonder if this is the case. Is Troy an accessibility device for people who don't really understand human interaction?
The idea that like if you're autistic, you might not pick up on this obvious emotion, so we'll have Troy state it outright.
Yeah.
So that you can keep. I hadn't thought about that. That's a very good point, Troy. But I don't like the idea that you're implying that Troy has a use.
If anyone is listening to this and is on the Facebook page and does actually know whether that's right or wrong, like, let us know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I wondered if...
Yeah. Also, to be fair, in this episode, we get the first genuinely useful thing Troy does, which is she detects from another room that somebody is in danger before they can hear it.
Before that person starts screaming, which is the traditional signal of I'm in danger.
Yeah, and if the crew of the Enterprise had gotten to that room at a slightly faster pace of light jog, that man could have lived.
Right. Do you think the uniforms are difficult to run in? Do you think... All right, sorry, go on.
That is a fantastic theory, Mark. That is only slightly undone by the fact that later in this episode, Data gets shot at by a laser drill, and after the laser has fired, he moves out of the way, which means that in that uniform, Data can move faster than the speed of light.
I personally wonder if Riker... what's Riker's... Jonathan Frakes? I wonder if Jonathan Frakes is opposite Tom Cruise, and actually he looks good when he jogs. He doesn't look good when he runs. I don't look good when I run. I run like you know the T1 million or the T1000, the Robert Patrick one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I run like the prototype about 8 prototypes before you get there. It doesn't look cool. It doesn't look menacing. It just looks kind of weird. I'm not a huge guy. I am a slightly bigger guy. So I look daft when I run, and I wonder if Jonathan Frakes has the same issue.
Once he goes over a certain speed, he just can't control his hands, and they just flap. It's like now I'm just going to throw this out there. That would be a fantastic plot for an episode of Star Trek.
Yep.
Riker has to overcome his inability to run.
I wonder if the reason that he jogged... The first thing that kind of happens when they get to the planet... First of all, Data is confirmed to be third in command.
Yep.
Troy confirms that. But the
first... And also, great thing about that, when they first arrive, it's confirmed that the people on this terraforming station are unaware that Data exists, which, again, I have to address. How is the existence of Data not... when he was discovered, how was that not, like the only thing anyone was talking about in the Federation for, a year?
Exactly. We know in real life that when an android was discovered and became Kanye West, we all found out about it. Can you imagine if Data called out Pete Davidson? What do you think he would? What do you think he would call him out for?
I don't know, but I'm just now
Stealing his
looking
bits.
forward to now I'm just imagining the next episode of Star Trek. We turn on the Data's just casually. Everything's the same, but Data's got a MAGA hat on.
Captain Picard doesn't care about artificial people. Just on the weather report that him and Picard do once a week as like an outreach program for we have to show the rest of the crew that the captain and third in command are cool guys, because everyone knows Riker's a sound guy because he knows all their kids' names. So maybe once a week Picard takes like 10 minutes for him and Data to sit in front of a green screen and they present Enterprise news. Read all about it. Enterprise news. Looks like Ensign Jenson is having her birthday today. Happy birthday, Ensign Jenson. 33 years old. What colour's his shirt? Oh, don't look forward to the next one. It looks like little Bobby Sands has got an A in physics class. Well done. Not much in home economics. That's a big fail that little Bobby Sands had in there, but good job. Over to Data, and Data does the weather, and he's like, "Well, we're on a starship. The weather never changes." Back to you, Captain Picard.
Oh, I was so certain you were going to do the space weather.
Space weather. Every now and again, there is a storm outside. Sometimes there are clouds, and occasionally the clouds have faces.
And occasionally the clouds take control of the Enterprise.
And also it's in the contract. They have to do it every week, regardless of what's happening on the rest of the ship. So they have to come in and go, "Oh my god, everyone is gone. Everyone has been beamed to some alternate dimension." But as per my contract, between 5:55 and 6 p.m. Earth time, Eastern Standard Time, on a Friday, I have to do this. Over to Commander Data. There's no one there. Picard suddenly begins to wonder, is this just the synapses in my brain just dying? Have I been shot by a phaser? I don't think I have. I would have recognised this sound. But as things start just disappearing around him, as he descends sort of further and further into madness. What if that's his favourite activity to do on the Enterprise? What if the reason that he hates kids is that kids don't understand it? Anyway. What were we talking about?
I've lost track. I'm just looking at my notes. What have I got?
So we're talking about Data or something. So anyway, Data, they all go down to the terraforming planet, and a scientist in a quite a nice jumpsuit, a nice lady scientist. I've put this is a really good and interesting explanation of terraforming from the scientist that Riker wants to absolutely split in half.
Mentioning that jumpsuit, I think that the number of buttons undone on the jumpsuit denotes rank. Because she's got hers all buttoned up all to the top, and the other two guys have got one undone, and then the big guy comes in, he's got his 3 buttons undone. So I reckon either that, or it's just because he's a big fat bloke.
I remember. I can't remember if I said this out loud or if I just thought it to myself. But when she starts telling us about terraforming, I immediately thought, "Oh, she's fit. This is a problem that Riker's going to have to solve later." And then he did.
Yeah, because I think we've got to address one part of this. So while they do discover life on the planet, because of the rules because of the Prime Directive being actually applied properly, Mark.
Oh.
If they discovered life on the planet, they can't terraform it. So what basically happens in this episode is that 4 scientists working on a passion project that is going to take them decades to complete, right? Basically have a ship stop by, some strangers turn up and ruin their life's work. And later on when like Riker's telling the scientist about this, and he's clearly trying to bang her at the same time. He's like chatting to her about it, and he's like, "Oh no, it's a life form. It's beautiful. You should see it." And it's like, read the fucking room, Riker. Her life's work has crumbled beneath her feet. She was fucking talking about like planets like Nigella Lawson talks about cheese, right? It's like she was very, very high on the idea of terraforming this fucking rock. And you've turned up and gone, oh, you can't do that. There's the life form, which by the way is like microscopic in silicon.
Yeah.
So does it count? Probably not. You could have just wiped them out. No, it's sand, Mark. No one would have known. Like they've been accidentally committing a genocide on this planet. But if they'd successfully done it, no one would have known, because it would have gone from being a live sand to dead sand, which is just sand.
So what you're saying on the record is that genocide is fine as long as no one finds out about it?
Yes. That's literally the official motto of the British Empire. That's why they had to stop after the camera got invented. Over to you, America. We're filming this stuff now.
We recognise the Armenian genocide, right? That's the stance that we're going to take on this podcast, because I don't know anything about it. All I know is that occasionally it gets. All right, we've recognised that.
Yeah, I know that the Kardashians try to bring a lot of attention to it because they are Armenian.
Yeah.
Genetically, and it's just weird that Venn diagram exists.
So, so the next thing that happens is that Troy senses that someone's about to be in danger, and then someone is in danger. And
this is my favourite bit of the episode.
Go on.
Right, so there's a laser drill going off in the other room, and it's like shot up a guy, and they open the room and the door, and the room's trashed. And the laser drill is still like spinning around, like aiming at everybody, so they can't go into the room. And the guy is on the floor, severely badly burned. And Riker diagnoses that they don't need to rush because it's hopeless from the doorway with no medical expertise whatsoever.
I said, he's right there. You could have sugarcoated that. Does it? Yeah, because someone suggests, we could beam him up to medical. And he's like, nah, there's no point. We'd be beaming up a body anyway. Might as well just hang out for 5 minutes.
Are they paying by the beam up? Is that Riker's job? Why not just do it anyway?
What if he's in charge of accounts? He needs to balance the books at the end of the week when Picard is doing his little news reading gig.
That must be. Now I come to think about it, I know they don't have money, but like there's resources that need to be managed. There's a guy like on the Enterprise who's like, I work on the flagship. What's your job? It's pretty cool stuff. I do the accounts. And then somebody else is next to him going, why don't you just tell people you're a ski instructor?
I'm a children's ski instructor.
It's space.
In space. Well, from what I understand, the nacelles, which are the things at the back of the ship, the two sort of engine-looking things, the front of those basically captures particles in space, basically captures matter as
scoop.
It's like a big scoop as they fly through space, which then goes immediately into the replicators. So I don't know, man. I don't know if they need to keep track of resources. If they do, that's the easiest fucking job in the world. Because Picard calls down once a week and says, how many resources do we have? And the guy goes, loads.
Like, his resources book is literally he's not opened that file's just been sat there. He's got an auto-generated report that gets sent up, but he pretends it takes all day.
Yeah.
The main part of his job is just there's a list of names. Every now and then he has to cross one off. Steve's gone.
Yeah. That's an extra XL size shot that we have.
The entire last episode was him on there going, am I deleting these 6 kids?
Because I guess there's also that the same way that IT people are undoubted, like that is true from the sitcom. They are a bit sick of asking, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" And I bet his most hated phrase is when Picard is personally questioning him, right? Not Riker, the head of fucking staff. Picard himself is going down and saying, how many 3/4 inch? I don't know if 3/4 inches. How many like R6-sized panhead screws do we have, Johnson? To which Johnson replies, as he does every week, how many do you need?
we've got an industrial replicator. I can replicate I could knock out a fucking shuttle if you want.
Yeah.
It takes a minute.
In the same way that a 3D printer is the only invention that can create itself. If you give me enough time and sit still, I will build a second Enterprise for fun.
And then we'll have an episode called Second Enterprise. And it would turn out that I've accidentally created an evil Enterprise. Which is an episode of Star Trek I would watch.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, Jensen. Why is the... Well, first of all, Jensen, happy birthday, yet again. But, Jensen, why is the other Enterprise evil? Oh, sorry, Picard. He just calls him Picard, because he's on not first name basis, he's on second name basis with him. And he says, look, I accidentally went... You remember when I said that I would replicate a second Enterprise? Picard goes, aye. And he says, well, remember all the R6 panhead screws that I made? I accidentally had the replicator set to evil. So I'm afraid the screws are evil, sir. And the screws are what holds everything together. Which really, if you look at it, is a kind of philosophical truth. You know, there can be no good without evil. The way that there can be no ship without screws. And Picard, who by the way is wearing a party hat.
Yeah, got one of those little things flapping out his mouth.
He blows one of them in frustration. Cause then Jensen's like, but at the same time, we can't replicate people, so no one's crewing the evil Enterprise. It's just there. Just leave it. Yeah. No, don't leave it, then somebody will take it.
Yeah.
No, I've got it. What to do is give it to the Romulans, because here's the thing, right? They'll be like, great, an Enterprise, but turns out the Enterprise will be evil. Oh, but the problem is, on an Enterprise that's evil, is the holodeck good?
If you give an evil Enterprise to the Romulans, would it help them or would it hinder them? What you want to do with an Enterprise that's evil is give it to somebody who you don't like, who's technically good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What's something in Star Trek that's technically the good guy, but like is a problem for... Well, okay, the Borg. The Borg are the good guys from they're trying to create a socialist utopia, Mark. Everybody works together to achieve a common goal. There's no racism, there's no bigotry, there's no homophobia in the Borg hive.
Can't argue with that.
All in all, yeah. It's just we don't like it because we've got shit we want to do.
Yeah.
What is the Borg's end game when they assimilate all life in the universe? Is at that point they go, right, finally we can put on that musical. That's what this is all about, was having that one highly choreographed musical, the dance to Thriller, with the entire population of the universe.
Because we know that there is a Borg Queen, but we know that the Borg Queen isn't the originator of the Borg. We actually don't yet know the origin of the Borg, do we? Not just us watching this series. I mean, in general, Star Trek hasn't revealed the actual origins of the Borg. And I think that the Borg's endgame, because I think what we do know is that there was a scientist who created the Borg essentially for a positive reason, but accidentally had his replicator set to evil. And he created the Borg. But I honestly think that the end game of the Borg is as soon as they assimilate the last bit of human life, last bit of life in the universe, they'll just go, well, that's that. Because the Borg were created by a scientist who
for a purpose.
He was put down. He was constantly put down by his dad. His dad was saying, "You never fucking finish anything." So one day, just to really prove his dad wrong, he creates quite possibly the greatest sci-fi villain of all time. For no other reason that eventually he'll be like, "Yeah, what do you think of this, Dad? This will be the ultimate finish, won't it?"
What if the point of the Borg was he was creating something to tidy up and that's what the Borg are doing. Once everybody's been assimilated, they're just going to take the entire universe and just carefully pack it away and put it on some shelves. Like, what are on those shelves? That's all the planets. We've got alphabetical. Which planet do you need? Put it back when you're done.
Who are they talking to?
Other Borg.
Other Borg.
At the end of the universe, it's just the Borg and Q, I guess. But yeah, back to this episode.
Right.
I really liked the. I think this is a great episode for the computer, because there's a lot of situations in this where like they're trying to work out if the thing's alive, and instead of like they do some stuff themselves, and then Beverly Crusher basically says, "Computer, what's this?" And computer goes, "Well, looks like it's alive, but it can't be because it's inorganic." And then like Beverly's like, well, "Okay, ignore the fact that it's inorganic. What is it?" And the computer's like, "It's alive." And then Picard's like, "Well, we've just worked out that it's alive. Data's discovery." And it's like, well, I think the computer's done most of the work here, lads. But also, this is a great episode for Worf.
Oh yeah,
Worf is fantastic in this episode, because there's a bit where they're sat at the computer and like Geordi says a science thing, Data says a science thing, and then Worf is like, "Is it alive?" And the computer is like, "Yes." And Worf is like offended that the computer's answered him. He goes, "I wasn't talking to you.
Yeah.
I was asking this robot."
I was asking basically you, but if it has legs and a penis, as Tasha constantly reminds us when we play Foursquare. This is the first episode. Sorry, not the first episode, but this is another good example of Geordi and Data solving problems together.
Yes, very, very good. I really enjoyed their stuff.
My favourite part is when Data gets stuck in the laser room and the following exchange happens. Geordi, what's going on? Data, too much to explain. Geordi, awaiting to Enterprise. We have a problem. Picard, be specific. Geordi, Data is locked in a room and we can hear laser blasts. Why was that too much for Data to explain? I'm in a room and I'm being shot at by laser blasts, Geordi.
There is a moment where the laser shoots at Data, and Data ducks out the way, and then it moves again, it shoots again, and you see Data move again. And at that point, what we could have had, Mark, is an incredibly dramatic action scene in which Data uses his robot-like reflexes to outwit the laser drill, and also then somehow disarm it. And it would have been amazing. But it would have also been very expensive to film. So what we actually get is a shot of Geordi standing outside a door and laser noises.
Hey, Geordi every now and again going, "You okay?"
Yeah. And then the guy who's like running this thing is like, "You've ruined our laser drill." By the way, I have a really important question, Mark. What is the difference between a laser drill and, a laser? What? Isn't it just a laser that you're using to drill? I mean, I get that, but it's not specifically doing anything different than a normal laser, right?
I know that I can't believe that. I mean, I get it, and I feel like you should as well. I feel like you shouldn't really be asking this question, considering you're about to be stabbed in the head with a gamma knife.
Oh yeah.
Because if the doctor just said, "We're going to stab you in the head with a gamma," or we're going to use gamma radiation, you'd be a bit like, could you be a bit more specific? Could you liken it to something else? I don't know, man. Because laser is it's a sort of catch-all term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you remember what laser stands for?
It's light and something.
Light
emission ray.
Amplified.
I know taser is
by this something.
Yeah. I know taser is Thomas A. Swift's electric rifle.
Aye.
Because it's but here's the thing about I just had this thought, right? Okay, if the gamma ray that I'm having used, right? If it turns out, like, I imagine that you could use a gamma knife if you had it turned up to like a full, like, high volume. You could probably use it to kill someone.
Oh
it's
yeah.
a radiation gun. What if it had been invented as that first, right? So like Dr. Demento makes his death ray, and then later on it's found that you can have a medical application of the death ray, but it's already called the death ray. And he's named it. Would you be like, oh, well, we're going to have to give you the death ray? And I'll be like, oh, what? He goes, no, it's only a name. We're actually using a very low dose for medical purposes. Why don't you change the name? But that's where, like, I don't think the name's important, especially with a laser drill, because it's like, it's just a laser. There's only 4 people on this base as well, which seems low.
That's our death ray drill. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Oh, one thing I did like in this is the line, apparently terraformers are often obsessive, which is a line that they say about like all terraformers. You know, it's like a common thing in the Star Trek universe, like accountants are boring.
Yeah.
But
Jenson's not boring.
But
Picard likes him.
He's the only crew member who's wearing a grey uniform, Mark.
He's the only crew member for whom Picard would wear a party hat.
But if they're all like, if the terraformers are known to be obsessive, and you've got 4 of them on their own terraforming this planet, and you're like, and you tell these people, we've checked the planet's got no life on it, but, and this is super important, if it turns out there is life here, please abandon your life's work. Given their obsessive nature, would it not be a good idea to just have like another guy whose job is to make that call?
The moral center job?
Yeah, like his name's like Stu, and he's just like a dude. He's like, there's like killing a bunch of stuff there, Doctor.
What would that job entail? Because obviously you're only really called in when the decision has to be made. We think we may have discovered a form of life, but we need you to tell us to stop running the terraforming operations. So what is it? That's just a 24/7 holiday, because 99.999% of terraforming operations don't have that problem. And as you say, it lasts for 30 years. So can you just take it as like a 10-year post? Because, I mean, and then do you bring your family, or do you go down there and you're like, please let there be one hottie?
Maybe you do it like a gap year. Like, you know how like there's like occasionally you see that advert where it's like, oh, this Scottish island's got a castle on it and a pub, and we need somebody to be the king.
Yeah.
For a year, because you're the only inhabitant. You've got to go around and clean dead seals off the side of the island for the tourists. Right, like maybe it's a job like that where like some fucker goes like, oh, before I join Starfleet, I want to do a gap year, so I'm going to spend a year on a planet that's being terraformed, and as a result of that, you get to put a statue of yourself outside, so that when they're done.
This might be apocryphal, right? This might not be true, but I went to university. That is technically true. I went there for a bit.
I've heard that's apocryphal.
Now, I went to, I'm not going to say the name, just in case. If you want to find out which one it is, you can delve deep enough into my fucking history. You will eventually find it somewhere. But the university that I went to apparently had an office in New York that they called the New York campus. But the only thing that it did there is they had to have someone be sort of permanently resident there during term time, during term hours.
Okay.
But all they did was they weren't going to fly anyone out, pay for their expenses. They literally just found a New Yorker and said, we'll pay you whatever, 18 grand to just be there 5 days a week from 9 till 4. And we'll give you an internet connection. When I went there like pre-Netflix and stuff, so this was when I heard about it. But I still imagine there's still quite a lot of stuff to do. I don't know whether that's true. But anyway, I think that this is that on an industrial scale.
Yeah.
By the way, did you notice when they're in the ready room and after they've been talking to the terraformer guy, Picard asked Troy, what do you think of the terraformers? And she says, well, that one, I don't really trust that one. I don't really trust the guy that's been really snapping at us every time we ask, is it possible that there's new life on this planet? And he's like, life? No. He's definitely up to something. And then he says, well, what about the woman? To which Troy replies, she is possessed of highly abstracted reality, lovely visions, little data. Troy just called her a basic bitch.
And then almost immediately follows that by suggesting that Riker seduce her out of her depression, having a life's work.
I didn't even really catch it. The reason I caught it is that I was watching it with Laura, and as soon as Troy said it, Laura went, woof, and pointed at the TV.
And by the way, can we just throw this out? This is a woman whose life's work is terraforming a planet, which we know involves a lot of data, because at a point in this, all of the crew of the Enterprise are shown a graph, which is meaningless to all of us, but they all seem very impressed by it.
Great.
That's a good... Yeah, can see that there.
What's that thing there, the blinking light that says life? What does that mean? Nothing, ignore that. Sorry, there should have been duct tape over that.
Whereas Troy is consistent, is in an area of a field of look, I don't want to ever go at the concept of therapy and counselling, but definitely Troy's brand of it is a little bit fucking nebulous at best. She's a fake psychic. This is very much a glass houses stones situation for Troy. She's in no position to be slagging people off.
And that woman, like, at the beginning, she explains terraforming to us in a way that only someone who is very passionate about terraforming could.
Yeah, it explains that. I love that whole scene where we get to the terraforming thing, because this entire episode doesn't require us to have a deep knowledge of the terraforming. That was just some Star Trek writer going, I've done my research, I know how this would actually work, and I'm going to fucking flex. And
I like that Gene Roddenberry read that and went, this is a page and a half of dialogue. Better get a babe.
I mean, she's such a babe as well. That did you notice Data's attempt at some dirty talk?
No.
I don't know if you caught the line, the efficiency of your hydraulic landscaping is very impressive.
Wait, was he just asking, are you wet?
I think he is. It went over the head of the scientist he was talking to.
That's a line that was deleted from Cardi B's WAP. By the way,
Data would be pansexual because there's no reason to program a sexual preference into a robot.
I think Data would be omnisexual.
Yeah,
which is it might be different. I'm not really sure.
I think omnisexual it's the same as pansexual, but you also are willing to fuck big space heads.
Well, we're dunking on women. Did you notice the 70-year-old ensign and the engineering?
Oh yeah.
Like,
is she? Or maybe she's not old. Maybe she's just from a species that looks like that, Mark. She's actually 21.
What's that disease? It's like the Jack disease from the movie Jack, starring Robin Williams, but in reality, it just kind of makes you look a bit like a bird. It's progenitors or whatever. When I went to university, there was a girl I was 100% sure had that. Luckily, I didn't ask her, but when we were drunk, I asked one of her friends. It turned out, no, she just looks like that. She is a normal 21-year-old bodied woman. Good, well done for her. Just looks like a giant bird. Anyway, that's another. Laura pointed out that the 70-year-old ensign can't even blame it on sexism because there's a lot of women in very powerful places on the Enterprise. She's clearly just shit. Do you think she pissed off Jensen? Do you think she was a lieutenant commander and she pissed off Jensen and Picard was like, I'm not having that. Down you go.
No, it's Jensen's like in charge of resources. She keeps turning up and being like, so that promotion that I got last year, the pip hasn't been sent through yet. He's like, nah, what can I tell you? It's not been sent over until we get it from HQ. I've chased them up. I'll do it again the moment you leave. The moment she leaves, you're just playing with a Rubik's Cube.
A Rubik's Cube made of pips.
He just opens a drawer, and then there's a jar just full of pips, and he just pulls them up and showers them over himself.
I like this new character that we've invented. We should write him down, because I feel like what's going to make this podcast really find its voice is when we really start leaning into the idea that we're actually on the Enterprise.
Okay. I like Jensen. I'm going to design him a t-shirt.
Nice. Got a big J on it.
I love the fact that the universal translator gets like hacked into by they call it the micro brain, because it's like it's one little grain of sand and then more of them because it can reproduce because it's alive, and it makes a little computer, and it gets into the universal translator and talks to them, and it refers to them as ugly bags of mostly water, which Picard is upset by, and then Data's like, no, that's accurate. you are an organic sack filled with mostly fluid.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, cheers, Data. But
I fucking hate the fact, and it is a fact. I hate the misunderstanding about how humans are 90% water, like what it actually means. Like because I know a lot of smart people who are like, oh yeah, like who are very smart in other ways, but who are like, well, obviously the full moon affects people's behaviour because we are 90% water and the moon affects the tides. I'm like, right, fucking number one, right? Get a human-sized container, right, and fill it with water and put it under a full moon and observe how much the moon's gravity fucking changes it, right? Because I'll guarantee it's very fucking little. And the other thing is, you're not just an outline, like a chalk outline of a person with a blue colour that goes up to 90% of you. The water is in other things. It's just the thing that those other things are mainly made of. If you fucking... Yeah. You can't just crack off your head and then drink you like a bottle of Evian.
I mean, you can. You can do that.
Yeah.
If you knock off someone's head and turn them up, fluid will come out.
Yeah. But there'll be bits in it, and no one likes that.
Oh yeah, you have to go to like M&S to get a human without any of the pulp. One thing I also like is, speaking of water, so the reason they've been accidentally killing this creature is because they're trying to drain the water out of this very thin layer of water that exists on the planet, and that's deep enough under the sand that light can reach it. But it's also like enough. That's where they live, basically. They've got a very narrow thing, and they're like, "Oh, we nearly accidentally stole all that and like killed you all," which basically shows that even in the future, Nestle is still active. Okay, I have an important question about the Universal Translator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so. At the end of this episode, Mark, the micro brain basically is like, beam us back to our planet, fuck off, leave us alone. You were too primitive. You can come back in 3 centuries. Did they get our years and century system from the computer? Or do they say that... Okay, here's my question. If I live on a planet where a day is 8 hours, so in my language, my word for day means an 8-hour time span, and I say to someone, I'll meet you in 2 days, and the universal translator translate that, will it translate that as 2 days, or will it translate that as 16 hours? So like, is it the creatures have said 3 centuries, or have they said their own time unit and it's been translated by the universal translator?
Yeah, I think it's more likely that. Because the thing is, one of my sort of day job, I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I think people know about it. Is that it's to do with Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is one of these weird things where it doesn't translate very well to other languages. Because Diagon Alley is something is quite clever because it's both a word that has a meaning, but it also contains a version of of alley, which is a type of road.
Yeah.
And English is one of there's weird. I can't remember which one it is because I never bring it up. But there is another language where that does work, and it's a real random one. It's like Filipino or something. There's just by sheer coincidence, there's another language where they've managed to get that quite like on the ball. Like it sounds like the word for street. So, when they translate that into other languages, they just they either find a local kind of colloquialism for it, or they just call it the Magic Street, and which is fucking lazy. But I suspect that it would translate it to because if the universal translator is translating to a completely different, like Klingon is quite close to an Earth language, but there would be languages out there that are so far removed from the way that we speak on Earth that the idea that it could relate human grammar to a species that communicates entirely with fart sounds, but then the one thing that it would fall down on is that it says just years instead of hours. I think that you'd need to get someone on that.
Well, I think this is mentioned this is mentioned in an episode of Enterprise where like T'Pol is talking to Archer and she's like, it's a miracle how any two species can communicate with each other, and she goes like, she's holding a cup of coffee and she goes like, look at this is a cup, and Archer goes, yeah, that's a cup, and she goes, yeah, but how do you know that when I said cup that isn't my word for brown or liquid or coffee or the atoms? How did you know that I meant the vessel? Like, and she's explaining how difficult, because there's a lot of stuff. Basically, in Enterprise, they have a translator who's like a person on the crew who like talks all the languages, and it's very fascinating. Much in the same way, it was very fascinating in Stargate SG-1, in that it was fascinating for about a season and a half, and then they realised it was far too much hassle to have Daniel translating everything for the first half of every episode, so everyone just started speaking English. Yeah, but no, I genuinely, this was a great, fun episode. Like I say, it's specifically the plot of this episode is it's Life Jim, but not as we know it. It's a classic Star Trek. We found a thing. It's alive, but not the way we would consider it. But that still has merit and is worthy. And just because something's different than yourself, it doesn't mean it's not valid, because it's fucking Star Trek.
It's a question that lends itself well to you thinking about your own understanding of the human condition, which is what Star Trek is. Because Star Trek, it's people from the future who are questioning, like, it's what's the way I said this perfectly to Laura the other day. Can't remember how I put it, but it's people from the future raising future questions that they have and issues that they have that help us understand more about what it means to live in modern day, which is what this episode does.
It was a genuinely great episode with what I will say, this one terrible bit of captaining at the end of the episode. Mark, they get told by the microbrain, come back in 3 centuries. That's when we think you'll be advanced enough to talk. And Picard says, I'm placing this planet under indefinite quarantine. So that's I don't know if you know the difference in time between 3 centuries and indefinite, but due to the nature of infinity, it's actually indefinite. Imagine that 3 centuries later, they'll be like, oh, they're coming back soon. Can't wait to meet the literally only other people we've ever met in the entire universe. This will be interesting. And meanwhile, like, the rest of the Federation's going, can't go there. He's trapped these people alone on this planet forever for the crime, apparently, of just fucking with one of his medical labs for a few days.
Can't go there. Why? What's there? Living sand. Oh, yeah. It doesn't sound great, does it?
I think he did it out of pettiness. I think Picard's deliberately trapped these people alone on a planet without anybody else to talk to out of spite.
I hope when they do go back there, the sand has learned how to arrange itself into a big face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then chases somebody in a biplane like in The Mummy.
Yeah. Give me that.
Yeah. But yeah, good episode. I actually genuinely, no caveats.
I recommend
or
this.
anything like that. I could just recommend this as a good episode of Star Trek to watch. If you watch this, you will enjoy it. I don't know if it's an all-timer, but it's certainly top 2 of season 1 so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Enjoy it. I looked at the name for the next episode. I don't recognise it. I don't know what it is.
No.
So we'll see.
Well, I need to go down and get some condoms off of Jensen. Why condoms? Why did my brain go there? I thought, like, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a joke about Harry to go see Jensen, because I think he's our new favourite third character. The reason that we start recording these is that he's just left to go back to work. And then the outro should be...
Because he weirdly, Jensen hates Star Trek. We can't talk about it while he's here.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, if we're on board the Enterprise watching Star Trek, this is the equivalent of if we worked at an airport and in our spare time we watched the famous BBC docuseries, The Airport.
It would be more equivalent to if we worked at an airport and our spare time was spent watching the CCTV.
No, only if that CCTV had been edited into a fully produced TV series, Mark. That's what we very specifically what we know is on board the Enterprise.
Yeah, so I don't know why I went for condoms.
Would they have condoms? Surely they just have you have a little thing. They inject you with a thing when you're young, and you can just you've got a little mental. You can turn a valve on and off.
Yeah, they call it the Riker switch.
Riker's is like the aperture on a fire hose. It has to twist it shut.
Yeah, they had to bring it in after it was discovered that 5% of the beings in the entire universe are descended from Kirk.
Yeah, right, let's leave it there.
Right,
I better
get back and see Jensen, see how he's getting on counting the screws.
Yeah, and I've got to make sure that the warp drive's still going. Vroom.
It's a hard job. Alright, lads.
Right.
See you next week. Bye.